Hello, friends. Welcome to Thursday. So, YouTube says we are live, shows we have sound, and I think that we are good. So, welcome to Thursday, 3 on Thursday. We make 3 cards every Thursday, sometimes more. And I give you all of the sizes of the names of the papers and all the things so that you can recreate it exactly the same as I did, or you can take those measurements and the idea and use what you have in your stash and make something that's similar. So I hope that what I have for you today inspires you and it makes you want to create something. I apologize. So let's start with this first card. All 3 cards today are kind of a fun fold, and they're all very simple. So this is the first one, and we just have a little pull out card. So you have lots of room to put in your message or even a gift card if you wanted to. So let me share with you. We're going to use a few things pretty much throughout all of the cards. So we are going to use the 2024 through 26 in color 6x6 DSP paper pack. So like it sounds, it is a 6x6 paper pack, and you get a bunch of paper. Okay, so some of this has been used, but I just wanted to show you that you get 4 designs for each paper, and when you are working with the ink colors, you get 4 sheets of each design. Let me double check. Let's see. I believe I've not used any of this. So we have 2, 4, 2, and 4. Okay. So these are front and back, right? So you get 4 sheets of one and 4 sheets of the other. So there are a total of 40 sheets per package. Now let me back up. So these are the ink colors, the 24, 26 ink colors. You can also get the 23, 25 ink colors, right? You can also get the same pack with any of the families. So that means that you can get it with the neutrals family. You can get it with every family. You do still only get 40 sheets, so you'll get fewer pieces of each color in the larger families. Okay, so you'll only get 2 of each of these instead of 4 of each of these. So just so you are aware. But it's pretty cool. They're all the same designs throughout every family. It's all the same. So you'll get a leafy flower with a stripe background. You will get a circle dot with this background. I'm not even sure what words to use to describe this. So we are using the in colors on every card tonight. We are also using one of these, if not both of these, on every card. So we are using the Paper Pumpkin add-on pack, which we talked about last week as well. And it does match April, May, June, I believe is what I remember seeing for the Paper Pumpkin. And then the Sentimental Park dies. So like I said, we will be using one or both of these on every card, as well as the in color DSP. So I thought that it was kind of fun to show you a lot of different ways to use kind of the same supplies. So if you are here, hop on, say hello. I would love to hear that you're here, whether it is live or on the replay. I love to hear from you either way. Let's see. For this first card, we are going to add the Spotlight on Nature stamp set. We are going to add the tear and tape, watercolor pencils, and the blender pen. So this is the second assortment, so it's a smaller pack, and yeah, I think you'll like what we end up making with these. So we need a few things. Now, I did not do the envelopes for these. Obviously you can, but to help make the video a little bit shorter today, I didn't. I did have some dental surgery this week, so if you think I sound a little bit funny or a little bit different, that would be why. So I do apologize for that. Alright, so we have pieces. So this is 8.5 by 5.5, and we are scoring at 2.5 and 6.5, or vice versa, depending on how you look at it. We have 2 pieces of DSP, and as you can see, it's the same front and back, but you could use different pieces. So we have 2.25 by 5.25, 1 3/4 by 5.25. We have a piece of white that is 4.5 by 3.25. However, you could make that a little bit bigger if you wanted. So let's see. So you could easily make this 4.5 by 3 3/4, and that would give you a little bit more room to write on if you wanted to. You don't have to. And then the white hexagon from the add-on, the Paper Pumpkin add-on die cuts. And I have stamped and colored one, and I did mean to cut that out beforehand, and I did not, so we will be doing that. Alright. So we need to get our stamps in our blocks. As you can maybe see, I did not clean these before I put them away. So they're leaving a mark. Okay, so we are going to stamp on here, and we're going to do the thanks first. And so we're just using some Memento black ink. And we're going to attempt to get this straight. I am not very proficient yet with the red rubber stamps. Yeah, let's see if we can make it straight on the block first. That will help. So one of the things that I did learn when I was putting the stickers on the back is that while the stickers will line up with the cut of the stamp is not always cut in the same place that the sticker is notating where the stamp itself is. Hopefully this is straight. No. No. Of course that's not. Alright, let's see. I, of course, did not cut any extra. And, oh, you know what? I do have extra. Haha. Because I was wrong. This one is not the Paper Pumpkin add-on. This one is the Sentimental Park. My apologies. Alright, let's try this again. Let's try on our scratch paper. No. Much better. Okay. I'm trying to not bump the camera and not be in the shot, so close enough. That one will work for me. Alright, and now we need the butterfly. This one, much less requirement for it to be straight. And we do want it on a slight angle anyway. Nope. I was going to say we're done with our stamping, but we're not, because we need to stamp this as well. And I totally forgot about that. So I did not put these on wax. Goodness. Alright, so we need So for this first one, what we're going to do is we're going to focus on this smaller flower, and the rest will kind of come off the edge, and that's okay. We want to still have space to be able to write our message. We just want there to be less space, right? And I need to take out the other sentiment too. Yep. So now when I'm stamping this, I know that I've already said we're focusing on the smaller flower, but we want that smaller flower stem to be on the paper as well. So kind of be aware of that when you are stamping that. think that's straight, but we are actually going to test this one, so we don't have to redo that. Pretty good. Pretty good. So I'm just going to kind of center this left and right. Beautiful. And then bring back in our butterfly. And as you can see on the sample, I did take it up off the edge of the page. If you don't want to, you don't have to. Like that. And then if we pretend that we didn't do this, you will also need a scrap so that you can stamp another butterfly so that you can color it, because we're going to do a fun technique. Alright, so while those things are drying, let's go ahead and do some assembly. So first we are going to score. Well, not score. We've already scored our cards that we're going to burnish. So again, this is 8.5 by 5.5, and we have scored at 2.5 and 6.5. Yep. And they do overlap. Okay. And we want, well, let's go ahead and open it, and we can add our paper to it. So I am going to put these stripes on the smaller piece and the leaves on the larger piece. You can use a liquid glue if you'd like, or your tape runner. Whatever you are more comfortable in using. You guys will have to let me know. Can you hear that airplane going by? It is a beautiful day outside, so I do have the door behind me open, so you can probably hear things going on outside. Okay. Next, we are going to take our turn tape and we are going to put it on either edge, the short edge of the short piece. And yes, you can tear it. You can also use a block, so it has a semi-neat edge. Or you can use scissors too. You don't have to tear it. And then we're just going to fold that up and give it a little bit of burnish. Okay. And our card is mostly assembled just like that. Okay, so we are not going to add any color on our hexagon piece. So if you'd like, you can attach that now. That is up to you. I am going to use some tear and tape for that as well, just to make sure that everything is nice and detached. And so I'm going to run this just above the point on the hexagon. You can even use your phone folder. Okay. I am going to line up my points just right on the very edge of our flap. I'm going to center this as best I can. Alright, and we have our card ready to go. So if you wanted to do nothing else, tuck that in, voila, you're done. A black and white monochrome card. But we're going to add some color here. So this one, let's cut this out just right quick. So I am going to include the butterfly body in my cutting out, but I am not going to include the antenna. I also am not going to include any white space on this. I am doing right up against that stamped image. And if you happen to leave any white space, that's okay. I have a fix for you. And if you've seen any of my videos in the past, well, not any of them, but if you've seen some of my videos in the past, you might know what it is. I have done it multiple times, and I do like to do it whenever I am cutting on a stamped image that I'm doing right up against the edge. I know watching this is not the most fun way to spend your time, so I do apologize for not having that part done in advance, but as you can see, it's super easy. Now you do want to save a couple of these pieces, or at least one, so save them all until we're all done, and then I will show you why we're saving them. And then, so what you'll do, excuse my reach, is you will take a black pen, and this is just my Cricut pen. And you're just going to trace the edge. And again, something that is super easy, does not take a ton of time, but does take a little bit of concentration. Yeah, you want to make sure that you don't slip onto the front of your piece, especially if, like on this piece, you've already colored it. Alright, is that perfect? Nope. Will it do? Yep. Okay, set that aside. Now I am using 3 different pencils: Gorgeous Grape, Flirty Flamingo, and Garden Green. And while I know that Flirty Flamingo is not this color, this is Pretty in Pink, I don't have a pencil for Pretty in Pink, and so I needed to make do with what I had. So I'm just going to come through and give some color to everything, just a light color. And you might need to sharpen your pencil for the stems. And then I'm going to add some dark to the base of these leaves, where you can see all these dark lines, and that will just add shading. Okay, on my butterfly, I'm just going to go in and put an even layer on the outside sections of the wings. And then I'm just going to do a little bit on the tips of the inside, which probably only makes sense if you're actually watching. So again, coloring the outside sections. And you can make this dark or light, depending on what it is that you're wanting the effect to look like in the end. And then come in the very tips of those intersections. And then purple, the Gorgeous Grape. So I'm adding some decent color to the inside section of the butterfly, overlapping those pink sections. And I'm not pressing super hard, just a little bit. And then I am going to come in and I am going to add some hard press color more at the base of the wings next to the body and kind of flicking out. I want that color to be nice and vibrant up next to the body and have it kind of fade to that pink color as it goes out. Alright, so on the flower, I'm going to essentially do that same thing. I'm going to lay down some decent color on the whole flower, and then come back in and add some nice deep purple to the base of that flower. And I do apologize, there is so much racket going on in the background today. Okay, you do not need 2 different pens to do this technique. I just did to make it slightly easier, so I don't have to clean off between. So on this pen, I have one end that I used for the pink, one end for the purple, and then I used the green on the other pen. So I'm going to start with the pink, and I'm just going to first blend the sections, the outer sections, so that they are all pink We're not gonna mix anything. And then I'll go through and do the inside tips a little bit. And then I'm just going to flip the pen around and mess with that purple color. So I'm going to pick it up a little bit, and then I'm going to flick out to the edges. On the flower, I am going to start at the top, and my pen has a decent amount of color on here now, so the flower is essentially kind of all the same color at this point, but that's okay. That's okay. And then the green, essentially the same thing. I am going to do the stems first, just because they are so thin. And that's it. Now, to clean up your pens, because I don't think I've shown that in the past, you're just going to scribble on the scratch paper until you have no more color. Now, your tip might have some color on it. It might be stained, but your pen itself is now ready to use for any color that you'd like to use it for. Alright. So, now I did tell you that you are going to want to keep some of your scraps, because what we're going to do is we're going to kind of create, let's see if you can see how this is popped up. I know it's blurry, but it's popped up, but there's no foam tape underneath there. All there is one single scrap of cardstock. So what I'm first going to do is I'm going to take my thumbnail and I'm going to kind of crease around the body. Right, so I'm just going to crease here. If you don't have a thumbnail, or for whatever reason, you can use the stylus on your take your pick and just draw along that body. Okay, and you don't need to really create a fold, you just want to have that beginning. And then you're not going to use this whole piece, obviously. You're going to use a slimmer piece. And we're going to trim this a smidge, because obviously we don't want anything showing on the front. And then we're just going to glue this down right there. Alright, let's try that again. There we go. And we're going to get that as close to that bend that we created for the body. Right, we don't want to go over it, we want it butt right up next to it. Right, and then I think I'm going to switch glues over to the fine line glue, because now we want glue on only the body, nothing else. Okay. Let that dry for a few seconds. And then we're going to line this up. And press with your fingers or your bone folder or whatever. And then you can see, because of that cardstock in there, it pops it up. It'll flatten it down a little bit as you know, when you put it into your envelope and whatnot, but it'll pop back up again, which I think is fabulous. I'll tuck this in here, and we are done with our first card. Nice, right? All right. Card number 2. Gotta grab all the pieces. We are adding my small business stamp set to this whole thing. And I showed you a couple weeks ago how to make some cute thank you cards that have nothing to do with business. So I wanted to show that even if you aren't a small business, you could use this stamp set for some great personal cards. Alright, so what do we need? We have some pieces pre-cut, everything pre-cut actually, just to make things simple, or attempt to. Alright, so we have a base that is 7.5 by 5.5. I know, it's a shorter base. It'll be fun, I promise. So 7.5 by 5.5, and we have it scored at 4 1/4. We have some more DSP, that same pack, that is 3 by 5 1/4. We have a piece of white that is 3 1/8 by 5 3/8. A piece of white that is 4 by 5 1/4. A piece of the Country Woods paper that is 1 1/4 by 5 1/4. A hexagon that really is from the Paper Pumpkin add-on this time. And then we have some of these super fun flowers that are cut from the Sentimental Park. Now these flowers, you can't quite tell, but they are embossed in the center. And I was hoping that they would show up a little bit more than they did, but that's okay. They didn't, and that happens sometimes. So we have a workaround for that. So I'm going to show you actually what our final card is, and then we will get to putting it together. So Look at this. Look at how fun this is. Now, there is a supply in here that is not a Stampin' Up! Thing. I have had it in my stash for years. Probably 10 plus years. Probably more than that, actually. I remember seeing either Jennifer McGuire or Christina Warner or both use it, and that is the Ranger Enamel Accents. I don't make anything from this. I think this is technically the second time ever I've used it. First time being almost 2 years ago for my grandbaby's baby shower. So let's go ahead and make this, shall we? So let's do our stamping first. Oh goodness, all these little pieces. So I am going to bring in my Stampin' Pierce mat. And then I cut up my stamps. Right? You guys, if you've seen me before on videos, you know that this is something that I do. I have technically done it on the red rubber stamps, but it's so much easier to do with the polymers, the photopolymer stamps. So that is what I did because I needed the sentiment. It just is. That is the basics of it. I needed it. Alright, so we are going to stamp thanks in Memento Black. Kind of right above that center line, centered all around. Right? Next, odd but true, we're going to do the word you. And I know it doesn't make sense, but it is the next biggest, and we want to make sure that this is fitting correctly on our piece. It kind of looks like it has a hair on it, or had a hair on it. Alright, hold on. So where are all these hairs coming from? And I don't have my chamois wet. I have it next to me, it's just not wet, so it's not going to do any good at all. I mean, I suppose I do have my drinking water that I could get it wet with, but I think that would be more of a mess than anything else. Alright, let's make sure that there's no hair on that one. Okay, so bring in our little baby machine real quick. Bring in our little die. Is this piece big enough? Yes, but no. We will make it big enough because we are going to cover up we're going to cover up that end with a flower so it doesn't have to be perfect. Alright, so we're not perfect down here, but again, that's okay because we are going to cover that with a flower. So let's try this again, shall we? Make sure there's no hairs on the pad. It does not appear. Oh look, there's a hair that's appeared. What in the world? You would think with all these hairs appearing, I have hair like floating around my desk or something, but I mean, if I do, I can't see it. Alright, we're gonna attempt to not make a mess because this is driving me nuts. I do apologize for this adding to the video. Sometimes you just have to backtrack so that more things don't get messed up. Right? So let's make sure that we're all good. Okay. Again, we're going to go in with you second. It's fine. It's fine. And then for being, thanks for being you. Wonderful. Alright, we're going to let that dry. While that's doing that, we're going to bring our flowers over to our Stampin' Pierce mat. And then we're going to switch over to the large end of our stylus, and we're going to do some circles. So we're just going to push down and just do little mini circles. Okay, we're going to do that for the 3 smallest. Well, I mean, technically we're going to do that for all of them. We're going to do slightly larger circles, and we're going to start with light pressure and get a slightly deeper pressure as we go. Okay. Now for our bigger guys, so these two are the largest and this is the next. We're going to kind of come in on each of the petal dips. Now because these are embossed in the center, like you can see mine ripped a little bit right there, that's okay, it's okay. And then we're going to do that same circle thing that we did before, or make it a little bit bigger And because of that embossing, it might be a little bit difficult to start it. And you could always use a larger tip to start with. Sometimes that works better than other times. Okay, so we are good with that. We're gonna set those aside, and then let's do some gluing. So I'm gonna go ahead and use the Tombow because we have such a small border on this piece. Right, it is only 1/8 of an inch bigger, the white piece. And so we want to make sure to be able to get that right where we want it to be. Okay. And then our Country Woods. And we are going to do this to the very edge. Now there is not meant to be a border along this piece. On mine, because mine are cut at different times, there sometimes is. So I could trim that down or I could leave it. I'm going to leave it today. And then we're going to fold our base. Now remember, when we did this, we scored it at 4 1/4. So we have 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 card once folded, right? So it's your typical A2 size. Going to add in our inside, and we're going to glue this just like we normally would, right? We're going to center this always. I'm going to flip this over, decide if there's a top or bottom according to your liking, and then kind of glue that accordingly. There may not be. I don't think technically there is meant to be one with this paper packet. And again, there's only a 1/8 inch border all the way around. So that is our card mostly ready to go. We obviously need to attach our sentiment. So when we put our glue on it, we don't want to go all the way to the edge. So I'm going to go approximately 2 dashes in, right? And I do tend to hold my piece where I don't want the glue to go, right? And then we're going to put this at the 1/3-ish mark, you know, top to bottom on our card. I do like to press from the back and not over the top of our stamped images. That's not changed. Probably won't ever. Okay, so now let's bring in this one and bring in our pieces. Let's move you down so you can see a little bit better. Okay, so now I'm just going to take my Tombow and I'm just going to put dots of glue kind of where I want my flowers. And just tiny little dots for our tiny little flowers. Right? Then I'm going to use my Take Your Pick tool because this putty end is fabulous. I think I need to adjust my putty because it did get some glue on it. Alright, so I just pulled it off, and you're just going to twist just a tiny bit, and it will slowly come out. I don't know if you can actually see, but look how much has come out. Like, I didn't really twist it much at all. And these little guys will really benefit from adding that pressure from your stylus end. Alright, only one more step, and that is our enamel accents. And this works just like liquid pearls. And it is a straight down, straight up. So you're going to hold it above and squeeze your drop so that you have a drop appear at the end, right? So you're going to hold it upright, you're going to squeeze until your drop appears. You're going to lower it until it just barely touches your paper. You push down ever so slightly and then pull up straight. Let it stretch until it detaches. And sometimes you'll get weird little globbies. And so you can just wipe those off. Of course, the larger the dot, look how perfect these circles are. Oh my gosh. The larger the dot, the longer it will take to dry. So you do want to have a place, just like with liquid pearls, to be able to set this aside and let it dry. But look at these. So perfect. So I'm going to set that one aside. So at the end of the video, I probably won't show that one just so I don't mess it up. So these ones were not perfect, and that's okay. I actually had to take the bottle apart and clean it because it got kind of old and gunky, but that's okay. All right, last card. This one is a little bit fancier, but I think you guys will still like it. It's not terribly hard, although it will look like it's terribly hard. I promise it's not. Okay, So we are going to be using these two stamp sets, Adventurous Sky for To My Friend, and then this is a paper pumpkin. Oh my gosh, I forgot which one. I mentioned it a few weeks ago. I got it in my kit and I don't have it handy to grab a hold of. Anyway, we're using this as well. So what are you going to need? I'm so glad you asked. You are going to need a piece of cardstock that is 11 by 5.5. So unfortunately, you will not be able to get 2 out of an 8.5 by 11 sheet, but it might be worth it to you. So stick around. So I'm gonna go over the scoring with that with you here in just a few minutes. All right, pieces. So I have a butterfly cut from the paper pumpkin add-on, as well as a hexagon, and then I have 2 pieces from the Sentimental Park dies, and these are cut out of thick white paper, as is the butterfly. Nothing else is cut out of thick. Everything else is out of a regular thickness cardstock. All right, but you do need, oh, I was so scared there for a second. All right, you do need 2 pieces of white that are 1 3/4 by 5 1/4. 2 pieces of white that are 1 by 5 1/4. 1 piece of white that is 4 by 5 1/4. And then you need some DSP pieces. They can be the same, they can be different, up to you, right? So again, we have the ink colors. This one is Petunia Pop. These are 3/4 of an inch by 5 inches. You need 2 of those. And then this is the Country Woods paper, and these are 1.5 by 5, and you need 2 of those. Right. It's easy, I promise. First things first. You are going to take your pieces and you're going to decide first which way you want them to be on your card. Do you want your little berry thing on the left side, or do you want that on the right side? So on my sample, I have it on the right side, but I think this time I'm going to flip it over and do it on the left side. So what that means is I am going to take one of these and I am going to cut it in half. I know. Oh, you know what? Looking at my sample, I do have this on the left. I'm going to do it on the right. Okay. I'm still going to cut it in half. Actually, I'm going to cut it in just probably just less than half. So this I'm going to set aside. I'll show you how we're going to use that a little bit later. Alright, so this we're going to attach, but we're not gluing the whole thing. Okay. So I just actually need to make sure real quick that you know what, never mind. So we're going to take our fine line glue. I'm doing this in a different order, so hopefully this doesn't mess us up any. Alright. Yes, we're going to glue this together. No, we're not going to glue the whole thing. We are only gluing these outside flowers, just these ones here, not the rest of them, just these ones here. And then we're going to put a dot right here to glue that together as well. Okay? Only that much. Do not glue more. You will not like how it turns out because it won't look how you want it to look. Okay? And then we're going to line this up and press it together, making sure it's all lined up how it's supposed to. Okay, and then we're going to set that aside. We're going to cap this glue so it doesn't mess anything up. Alright, let's glue some pieces together so we can have a fewer pieces here. And I'm just going to go ahead and use the Tombow just to make things easy. These are just going to be centered all the way around. Top, bottom, left, right. On all 4 of these pieces. I know I didn't even show you guys the sample of what we're doing this time. That was unintentional, I promise. Now you can use any of well, I mean, you can use any paper. But what I was trying to say is you can use any paper that helps give it a pop, or you could even stick with a monochromatic look for this. Either way, it would look super fantastic, I think. Now, before we move on, let's go ahead and do the scoring. And you know, I don't know why I didn't score this one beforehand, other than I wanted to be able to show you guys at least one that we scored on screen, so that if you weren't familiar with how to use the scoring part of your trimmer, you could learn. So, the Stampin' Up! Trimmer has 2 blades. We have a cutting blade, which is darker, and a scoring blade, which is lighter. The other thing is the scoring blade has a little dot nub on it. Excuse me. And so that will help you. And it's rounded. It's a little nubby on the bottom, so I don't know, maybe it might help. Alright, so we are going to score at 1 1/4. And 3 3/8. I tend to always go 3 times with this scorer, just to make sure it's scored well. Alright, 7 5/8. And you do need to add some pressure This is not something that you can just lightly go and it'll be good. 9 3/4. 9 3/4. All right. And we are all scored. So, not sure if you can quite tell. I can't tell on my monitor, but that doesn't mean anything. So, we have 2 score lines here and 2 score lines here. The inner ones you are going to fold into the inside of your card base. And then the smaller ones, outer ones, you're going to fold the opposite way. Okay. Just like this. And you are going to want to burnish them very well. So this is our card so far. Let's go ahead and add our inside piece in. So that piece is out of the way. And let's go ahead and do our other pieces as well. So let's do our small pieces. And these are going to go on these little wings, as I'm sure you figured out. Now, one thing that will help your cards look better is if you pay attention to your pieces. So, for example, obviously this piece goes over here, but they will be next to each other. So I could glue this one on like this, or I could say, hey, wait a second. These circles are big up here, and these circles are small down here. So let's glue them that same way so that they line up, so to speak, when we fold the card closed like that, right? It's those little things like that. No, I don't always catch them, but you know, if we try, then it just bumps up our card making that much more. So we're going to go ahead and flip this over just to make things a little bit easier. And then we're going to put these larger pieces. It looks and feels like they're on the back, but because of how the card folds, they'll be on the front, I promise. Okay, our card is 3/4 of the way done. So let's do our finishing touches. So we need to do some stamping, and I probably should have done the stamping on here beforehand, but that's okay. I'll just set this here for this moment so that we can stamp it really well. Alright, we are going to do some embossing this time. So we have our Versamark ink. We have our powder. We have our gold and our something to catch our gold. Okay, so let's do To My Friend first, and we're going to do this in the bottom right corner. It's not quite straight, but that's okay. It is what it is. And then we're going to stamp this one. One of the secrets for Versamark is you do not want to press super hard. Right, perfect. And we'll take that piece off because it is not needed for this step. We just wanted it so we could stamp better. Okay. I do have this wooden cutting board that I just got from the thrift store, and I use it for my heat embossing. I'm heating up my tool underneath my desk. Hopefully it's not too terribly loud right now. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to cover my embossing powder because that was going to be a mess. And then I have a silicone spatula that I got, and this might be loud, so I do apologize. And so I'm just going to hold this down and melt this, and maybe you can see magic happen on camera. And just like that, we're done with that. Oh, that did come across really well. Yay, I'm so happy. All right. So this does bend a little bit, and that's okay. That's okay. So this is going to go across here like this, and again we're going to do it at like the 1/3 mark essentially. Perfect. And what we are going to do first is we're going to line up these two pieces. Sorry. Okay. So they're going to line up kind of like this. So the point comes out here. They will line up perfectly top to bottom. They are the exact same width on the hexagon, top and bottom. Okay. And then we're going to kind of set this down where we want it, centered left to right. And then we're going to pick this up so we can see where we want this glued. Okay. And that's where we want that glued. So we're going to do that real quick. Remember, we're not going all the way across. Of course. So somewhere I have look, it's been oozing out, so you think you need to push it further than you do. So just be careful. Alright, there we go. Again, remember, we don't want to go all the way out to our point. And we want to do our best to make sure that it is straight across. I'll give that a few seconds. Okay, now on this piece, we have this little bit here, right? We're going to use that to slip under like this. And this is why you're not didn't want to glue all of these flowers, because we needed to be able to slip that. And we need to make sure that it is in the right spot. Okay. So now you know approximately where it goes. What you're going to do is you're going to put some glue just right along the edge. Do not let any glue get onto this part. Only on the part that we cut off. So only like that. Okay, I know it's white glue on white paper. That's okay. Alright. And then we're going to slip that on. And slip it across and make sure that our hexagons line up. Top and bottom. And give that some presses. And then you have kind of a secret message happening, right? Alright, and then we have just one more thing, two more things. So we have this piece here. You don't have to do anything with it, but on mine, I put it inside just to give a little bit more zhuzh on the inside. Right, I didn't put very much glue. I didn't line it up with the outside. I just lined it up against the edge of our white piece. And then I take a mini dimensional, put it on the back side of our butterfly. Give our wings just the tiniest bit of a pop, and then attach. And that is card number 3. So this one does not stay closed very well when you let go of it, but maybe after it's been mailed it might do that a little bit better. But it just goes together, it tucks under just like that. So these are our cards for today. So I just want to say thank you so much for joining me on my 3 on Thursdays, live or on the replay. I love having you here either way. If you have any questions about these cards or any of the products that I show to make the cards, please let me know. I would be happy to answer those questions for you. And on that note, thank you guys so much, and I will see you next week. Have a great week. Bye-bye.